Discovering Alabama is a production of the Alabama Museum of Natural History.
Paradise. Paradise can mean many different things to many different people. Paradise to some is a quiet place for solitary reflection. For others, it's quite the opposite. For many, it's a Garden of Eden. Perhaps it's utopia. It can be the land of opportunity, rich in natural history, rich in human history. Many come to paradise to share the wonder. Many more come to learn of its wonders. Paradise can be a state of mind.
For me, paradise is the state of Alabama. I'm Doug Phillips. Come along with me as we explore a paradise which truly is many things to many people. Come along as we discover Alabama's coastal paradise.
This program is about a land unknown to many people, a land that in many ways has maintained its native natural wonders, a place of bountiful backcountry, forests, streams, and wildlife more diverse than can be found in much of the inhabited world. Come along with me as we explore the wild wonders of this land. Come along as we discover Alabama.
Welcome to Discovering Alabama, and welcome to Alabama's coastal educational paradise.
Most common fish on the table. This guy, we could have caught it at the marsh.
I want you to take your squid out of your petri dish.
Awesome. Okay, do you want to run and go get back the water real quick and come right back?
Nasty tasting critter. People don't catch it, they don't serve it.
Yeah, there's oak trees up there. What's this big guy? You guys know what that is? It's a southern magnolia.
From ship to shore, west to east, north to south, the natural wonder we know as Alabama's coastal paradise creates opportunity for hands-on, get your feet wet learning.
Good job, guys.
That one, you can walk right in. I know, but I need somebody. There's a lot of stuff out there. We live in a gigantic, awesome toy box. Saying if I get a hold of you, I can get you into this stuff. I can show you these animals that are all over around your area and how many different kinds and how beautiful they are.
So, every fish that looks like this, somebody pick one up and hold its belly. Right here. Grab it. Hold its belly. Yeah, that's it, but you gotta hold it. All right.
I think getting kids outside is probably the single most important thing that we can do. It's important that students don't think of the outside or camping or just spending a long time outdoors as somehow foreign. It's important that they think about those activities as a way of sort of returning to our primal past. I mean, getting kids outdoors and having them connect with animals and the environment, I think is very important.
Raising kids is not easy. It's a hard job, right? And it's really rewarding, but it's a very hard job. And to see that your kids are studying and seeing that they're getting exposed to things that are going to stimulate them and so forth. If you can get kids out, if you can take them to places where they can get inspired, by nature or by science, I think those are really, really tremendous.
Pretty sure.
It goes back to some of the work with ecopsychology and recognizing that our connection with nature is actually hugely important for our psychological well-being. And so I think that we need to create those opportunities for kids to get out into the natural environment and to experience it and to make observations at every opportunity, to get dirty. I just think those things are hugely important. So it's really cool to hear that that's happening in Alabama, and I think that as those types of opportunities exist for kids, that fuels their curiosity.
I teach them science, and it's funny because sometimes I can tell in the classroom I must sound like Charlie Brown's teacher. They kind of just tune me out, and you bring them out here and they hear you. They hear what you're saying, they see it, they touch it. It really sinks in.
We're all on the same page about where you're going.
There is learning on every level available once you get outside the classroom walls. I'm a firm believer in that. I was an environmental scientist before I became a teacher, and I really value the hands-on and learning outside the classroom.
It's a Tina 4. It's a comb jelly. It looks like they're all dead.
With so many educational opportunities to choose from, you might think they were all in competition with one another.
I refuse to even consider that we're in competition with each other. We have the highest biodiversity on the East Coast, right here in Alabama, and we all have a collective mission to teach people about that. And I think there's plenty of room for all of this because we each have our own unique presentation style.
Can you guys see?
Yeah, it's not a competitive model from our lens. That means we help other groups get into the schools. We have a great relationship and have had for 20 years on both sides of the bay with not only the public schools but also the private school systems. So we work with lots of different groups out there to help their education programs.
Environmental education is the key to long-term success of keeping these habitats intact. So there's never a competition in what each and every one of us are doing, because the end result is creating a learned society, both adults and children, that will perpetuate our whole goal, and that is to conserve, to use wisely, and to pass on what we have. The beauty that we have here needs to be passed on to the generations that come. Education is the key to that.
This is what makes science real, is actually being immersed in the things that you're learning about. And to have these opportunities is just a unique and wonderful thing. So they definitely take these things back to the classroom, and they're able to say, I saw that, I touched that, and relate to it more than just from a picture.
Our primary mission is education. These classes are tied to the content standards that the kids are required to learn as part of any school system in the state of Alabama. And so a teacher wanting to bring their kids down here does not have to sacrifice classroom time. It is not a fun trip, although we do make it fun. Its primary mission is education, experiential or hands-on education. So while those students are here during the school year, we take them outside. We give them things to touch. We let them explore and discover on their own. During the summertime, we sort of switch gears a little bit and we offer a number of fun and yet educational camps for different age groups of students. Some of these camps are held just during the day, so they just join us for a period of the day. Some of the camps are actually overnight camps, so they can come down and stay with us overnight and live, sleep, and eat marine science. We do fun things like going fishing and learning to catch crabs, and also fun things like sandcastle building contests and stuff.
We are lucky here at Five Rivers to have this beautiful Mobile Tensas Delta behind us. It is different every day. You can get out there every day and see different things. Today, for instance, they've seen alligators, of course. This time of year, you often do see them. You'll see ospreys, a predatory bird that preys mostly on fish, and they nest around here. There are several nests within a couple of miles radius. You may see bald eagles, which are nesting just up the hill in Spanish Fort. You may see mullet jumping out of the water. You'll hear frogs in the background, although you may not see them. You may see a snake slither across the surface of the water up onto an opposite bank. You'll see red-winged blackbirds and hear them, as well as grackles and mockingbirds and lots of different songbirds.
I can't take Weeks Bay and I can't take the outdoors and all the things that are in it into the classroom. And they can look up things on the internet, but it's extremely important that they, at some point, understand that looking at something on the internet doesn't take the place of going out and actually experiencing it outdoors and taking their head out of their smartphone and looking up to the top of a tree and seeing a woodpecker. Or, you know, you may see a bobcat out in the woods at Weeks Bay, or the beautiful pelicans like are out here on the bay.
You've probably heard the old proverb that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. What may not appear readily is all the teacher has done to prepare for the student.
These seeds that are going to come up as coats, as smaller plants. So he's doing all this work without any human interaction.
When we do teacher in-services, again, we try to do those in conjunction with the State Department of Education, and we look at the field of science and how that's changing and what the State Department needs, and then we model what those needs are to what's going on in the Gulf. Science is science, whether it's applied on land, in the atmosphere, or in the water. So we'll take that science that's being stressed by the State Department and look at it, how it affects the Gulf or the Bay. And so we offer those programs. We may offer a program in water quality, stretching from northern Alabama to Mobile Bay, and what's happening in the water, and what are all the inputs into that water as it arrives at the bay. So that would be a workshop that helps teachers across the state to have a better understanding of wherever they live, what input that place has on Mobile Bay.
Here in Alabama's coastal educational paradise, the learning opportunities don't end with high school.
The Sea Lab was formed in 1970, and the concept was to create a consortium of colleges and universities in the state in which the shared resources of those universities could be applied in one location. So if you're a student in any state school in the state of Alabama and want to take marine science, then you sign up at your home campus and you come to the Sea Lab to do those undergraduate studies. And obviously, if you're a graduate student, you'd sign up at one of the institutes that have a graduate program and come here to do the studies.
We do a lot more with adult education and with high school and college level. So we'll go to all of the college environmental showcases and have displays about how to positively impact your environment. And what we find too is those kids in that age group, they already know a lot of this, so it's reinforcement, and then it's making sure that their parents in that age group know, and that's been a lot of what we're doing.
We provide eco tours throughout the trail. We have a naturalist that takes people on a guided electric golf tour, so people that aren't very mobile, it's ideal for them. Other people that just show up into town and don't really know their way around yet, we show them the entire trail system so they can come back with their family, hike, rent a bike. Our other programs, we're trying to hold seminars both out here and at our city facilities to really educate the public about not just this environment, but the more global environment as well. The popularity of the trail is really spurring that need and that want from the public.
Alabama's coast is a living, learning lab where there's always something new to discover.
You know that you got a mantis shrimp because it has a big pair of very scary, large appendages, and you got to give them some space. These are really amazing shrimp that can move at extremely high speeds, like 60 miles per hour in under 2 milliseconds, so accelerations on the order of a bullet in the muzzle of a gun. The mantis shrimp are really interesting in terms of when they live in these mixed habitats, the estuarine habitats, where there's a river coming in and going into the Gulf, for example. They're interesting on many different levels.
Odd and fascinating creatures like the mantis shrimp collaborate in a magnificent consortium of water, wildlands, and wildlife that excite the attention of scientists from around the world.
It's a special place. It's more fragile. It's more fragile than any other ecosystem I can think of. It's more complicated in many ways. It's a glorious place to work with the absolute tops in biodiversity and the characteristics you want to study. Even its complexity is attractive. You know, when you really get down to it, it really is. Well, you've seen it down at the lab. If we want to study waves, why do it on an oscilloscope if you can go stand in the water and measure the waves?
These same rich ecological wonders that inspire the sciences play the muse for artists across Alabama's coastal paradise. Wise teachers know the value of experiential learning. Educational priorities, however, are rarely set by teachers. Too often those priorities are political, social, and economic.
You got to get kids out of the classroom. We don't have a lot of funding for that. That's one of the things, you know, in Alabama, when we cut funding for schools, one of the things we lose is those students' contact with where they are. That's where our lack of funding really hurts us.
Educational challenges in the United States are formidable, and I think we've got to invest in education. We've got to invest in good teachers. And I think that it's going to take special efforts. And I can't imagine a more important thing to invest in than education.
So remember, crustaceans have 10 legs, false count, stalked eyes right there, and then 4 antennae, 2 pairs, and those are right between the eyes here. So this is definitely a male. However,
surely there's no debate. Investing in education is investing in everything we claim to hold dear. But there's another way to look at the fiscal realities of hands-on, feet-wet learning opportunities. We can ask, what happens if we don't invest? What happens for our children? And what happens for this paradise we celebrate as Alabamians?
That's a really difficult question to answer, because in my experience, I've seen people who have that spiritual feeling about the continuation of wild nature. I think it has mostly to do with childhood experience. And for that reason, I consider the coming heavy urbanization of Alabama's principal cities as making it less likely that children have the experience that I and so many Alabamians did have, which is to be cut loose, to go wandering through the woods alone or with some buddies, exploring, messing up nature a little bit. That's the kind of experience that makes you a lifetime devotee of the wild environment and gives you in later life, with more maturity and more understanding, that sense of spirituality that I think is vital to the conservation ethic.
Yes, I have to agree with my friend Ed Wilson. Sometimes you just have to let kids get out in the wild, get their hands dirty, get their feet wet, to be inspired to learn, to create. And the inspiration comes naturally here in Alabama's coastal paradise.
See what I'm talking about? That round pupil? Some snakes, their eyes are very camouflaged to their skin, and you really can't see the pupil at all.
but to standardize our data, we have to use the Boston mackerel. And so this fish is incredibly important. It's also, it might have had a bunch of brown stuff on the outside we could scrape with our fingernail. That's the encrusting bryozoa. Squid, any shrimp, they need to be tossed right over here.
Oh wow, you can actually see them now. They're getting
Good job, yeah.
Discovering Alabama is a production of the Alabama Museum of Natural History, the University of Alabama. This program is supported by grants from the Solon and Martha Dixon Foundation, the Alabama Wildlife Federation, working for wildlife since 1935, and the Alabama Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, State Lands Division.